Canadians, we are proud to say that we have access to free healthcare, and none of us want to lose this privilege. But we can't ignore that our beloved system is not perfect and that, like anything, improvements can be made. Well, in late 2020, our guest today got to experience that firsthand. Kayleigh Duggan woke up with what she first assumed was COVID, but it wasn't long before she questioned what really was going on in her body. That began Kayleigh's journey to see what could be done to restore her health. Kayleigh, thanks so much for joining me today and coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
So, what are you doing? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Kayleigh Duggan. I've been recently engaged to my wonderful fiance.
That's
such
great.
a sweetheart. So we're getting married this August. Very excited. I am also working on my bachelor's in theology.
That's wonderful.
So I am almost there, just at the finish line. It's a little bit more.
Great. Well, listen, let's dig into it then. When did you first notice something wasn't quite right?
Right. So back in late 2020, I had a fever and a headache, which I had assumed was COVID. So I went through the COVID tests, came back negative, and after about 3 weeks of it, just the headache not going away and it being in a weird spot because it was just at the back of the head, I kind of questioned that this could be something more.
Yeah.
So I went to my family doctor, who thought it was just stress.
So now, before this, did you ever have any other major health issues, or was this the first time?
No, this
No?
was absolutely the first time anything major would have happened.
So when you went to your family doctor, what were his first steps? You said, okay, I've got these symptoms. They seem like flu symptoms, like COVID, but it's not going away. What were the first investigative steps that he took?
So first he thought it was stress related because a 19-year-old coming to the doctor with like unrelenting headaches, his first guess was just stress. So I had the different pain medicines to try.
Okay, what were some of those?
So it was I forget what it's called. It's meloxicam I tried. I tried
And that's like a pain reliever or something? I don't even know.
Yeah, it's like a stronger ibuprofen.
Okay.
So it's something that's in your system for a longer period of time to help. But after it just didn't help at all, I was really, really questioning what was happening.
So if those drugs didn't initially work, what did he offer some tests? Like, did you have tests after that?
Yeah, so I had to get numerous COVID tests just to rule out COVID.
Okay.
Which was
So they
not
really,
fun.
really knew you didn't have COVID.
They really, really knew I didn't have COVID. So about 2 months after, just keep pressing like, hey, this is not right. I know my body, something's off. He got me in to get a CAT scan.
Okay.
So that was 2 months after the first onset of headache.
And what did that reveal anything? Like, did you find anything from it, or did you have to have another test, or?
So right after the initial CAT scan, I got a call from my doctor's office who saw that there was something off in the MRI of the brain, which CAT scan of the brain.
Okay.
And he wanted to see me like the next day. So he said it looks like a cyst in the fourth ventricle. These things are incidental findings, and it's highly unlikely that this is causing your headaches.
So in other words, he wasn't concerned about it. He wasn't really worried about it being the trigger for your headaches?
Right. He said it was very unlikely the cause, and that I just have to keep an eye on it for future.
But you still had these headaches. So then were there other tests, or what was the next step? They were like, how long did it take to get a concrete diagnosis?
So after the initial appointment with the doctor who got my CAT scan, he got me into an MRI within like 2-3 days. So after about a week of waiting, I found out that it was actually a brain tumor and not a cyst. So then that triggered him to send me to a neurologist, which I waited 2 months to see since that actual MRI.
Okay, did they give you, we're going to go to the break soon, but just quickly, did they give you any options of treatments besides like the painkillers at that point?
No, they just told me, just take the painkillers and hopefully that will resolve it and you can resume your normal life.
All right, stay with us. When we come back, we'll learn more of what the next steps were for Kayleigh. When we're sick, we count on the medical community to provide solutions. So when we hear the words, we can't operate, or you'll just have to manage life with this, or worse yet, there's nothing else we can do, the burden of the illness is compounded by the loss of hope. With this in mind, what did the Canadian healthcare system offer, Kayleigh? So talking about that, how successful were any of the options that you tried when we talked about the painkillers? So if that didn't work, what else did the Canadian healthcare system offer you in order to deal with this, since they felt like the brain tumor was incidental?
Right. So their initial thoughts were that I had chronic migraines,
Okay.
which had
Again, being stress induced, did they think? Or?
Yeah, they were thinking it was stress induced, and I said, "Oh yeah, I've had maybe 3 migraines in my life." So then they're
Okay.
like, "Oh, well that's it."
Bingo.
Yeah, because that's the way chronic migraines work,
Oh.
where if you get one, then it can trigger and turn that switch on in your brain. So their option was trying these different medications that have the side effect of helping migraines.
Okay.
So like topiramate, I had one that was good for something else. I don't remember specifically,
Okay.
but it had
So it was like an extra usage for it that had an
Yeah.
extra benefit that they thought they would try?
Exactly.
Okay.
So it's like some was good for like blood pressure, even though my blood pressure was fine.
Okay.
And yeah, they said try this for a couple months and let's see if it helps with the chronic migraines that you're
Right.
experiencing, and we'll take it from there.
Okay. And did any of that work?
No,
Nothing worked.
not even. It didn't even take the edge off.
Really?
Nothing.
So at this time, did you get a second or third opinion then? If you're thinking, okay, I've got this incidental brain tumor, I've got these chronic migraines, I'm trying these different pain meds and drugs that are used primarily for something else, but can also have a benefit, but don't seem to be doing anything for me. Did you decide, listen, let's get a second or third opinion then, or?
Yeah, so we had through our insurance something called Best Doctors, where you could get an official second opinion.
Okay.
So we filled out all the paperwork, we got all the medical information and what our diagnosis was. We sent it in to their platform, but since it was the height of COVID,
Yeah.
it took forever for them to actually contact all the hospitals. So it was about 3 months after the first neurologist appointments. It was about 5 months in from the
beginning?
from the initial onset.
Okay. So what did they say? Had surgery come back up again about as an option, or what did they say about surgery?
So they agreed with my Canadian doctor saying that it was chronic migraines, that
Really?
the tumor was very likely incidental. They thought that I should just stick it out and wait till the hydrocephalus occurred. And
Like maybe explain that a little bit. What does that mean? Because our viewers are not going to know. I had to look into that too.
so hydrocephalus happens when the fluid in your brain backs up because there's an obstruction. In my case, where it would all of a sudden trigger a doomsday type event where you have to rush to the hospital and you have maybe 30 minutes or more to get there.
That doesn't sound incidental to me. Even if it's
No.
not cancer, that sounds pretty life-threatening. Like a
No,
time
yeah.
bomb.
Yeah, so I naturally didn't feel right sitting with that. My family didn't feel right sitting with that.
So they
'cause-
basically wanted you not to do a lot of traveling or anything, because if
Right.
that happened, then you would have to rush to the hospital.
Right, and not every hospital is equipped to handle that level of trauma either.
That's
So
crazy.
they said to stick around like the
And
Hamilton area.
And what was the success rate they were giving you if they actually did surgery?
So they said it would be a 50-50 shot of survival.
50-50.
50-50.
So how old are you at this point?
I was 19.
You're 19 and you're told you've got a 50-50 chance of surviving if you had surgery.
Yeah,
And how invasive was it?
it
if
was
they did it.
opening up the whole head, because where the tumor was, it was right in the middle and touching the brainstem and the
Wow.
cerebellum. So the fact that it was touching the brainstem, no one wanted the liability of touching it because I was otherwise healthy except for the headaches.
So your symptoms, what were they like? Like, were you still trying to work? I mean, go to school? Were you like?
Yeah, so I was still doing my schoolwork. I had to stop working because the pain just got so intense whenever I tried to do things, and including I would get a fever and stuff when I would really exert myself. So with the height of COVID too,
Yeah, it was so
my
difficult.
employers weren't very happy that I was running a fever all the time.
Right, exactly.
And
yeah. Well, I mean, we've got 15 seconds left. When did you and your family decide it was time to look outside of Canada?
so after my second neurologist appointment, when they just said, let's keep going at this and we'll see if we can get this pain under control, but
All
you
right.
don't want surgery.
All right, stay with us. We'll get more into it after the break. The unknown can be scary, so looking for treatment outside of our own system can be daunting for many. Yet there are times when advocating for ourselves may lead to unfamiliar territory in order to find answers. Asking lots of questions and doing as much research as possible can take the scariness out of the unknown. And with that, Kayleigh, with her family, researched treatment options in the US. So let's talk about that. What did you find out when you were looking into the US as far as other possible treatments, since all you were offered here was pain management and no one wanted to operate?
So in our report with the best doctors, we found out in one of the little notes that endoscopic was potentially an option.
Okay, and how would that treatment work?
So
That surgery.
instead of opening up the entire skull, it's using just like a little like endoscope to go inside the brain instead. So it makes the surgery incision a lot smaller and less invasive.
Sounds wonderful compared to the other one.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you found out about now how much, like, was there a particular hospital that did this more than others? Did they give you a timeline of how long it would take to book and what would the cost be?
Right. So from our initial looking at this document, we realized that we just literally Googled places that did that in the States.
Okay.
Which we had no idea how much it cost, but we had some backing of people who said that they would be willing to help fundraise if necessary.
Okay.
And they
So what did when you chose a hospital, so they said, we can do this type of surgery?
Yeah.
Now, when they said that, did they also say how long you'd have to wait?
So they said as soon as that we raised the money that they would be able to book the operating room. And once we had that, it would just be a matter of the surgeon's schedule, which from when we did book it, it was 3 weeks after.
So 3 weeks. Okay. So how much, first of all, now obviously healthcare being free in Canada, how much was this surgery going to cost you in the US?
So after all the costs of like accommodations, hotel, food, everything, it would cost us 160,000 Canadian dollars.
And that's not pocket change. It's
No.
not like, you're just like, let's just have that in our bank account. Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
So what did your family decide to do? Like, okay, you mentioned that there was possibly some people that were willing to support you. How did you get this money together and how fast did you get it together?
So we reached out to our local church, which was just on the front of doing the Sarah Tapley Foundation, which
Okay.
helps families who are going through tough medical journeys to help fundraise or support in whatever way they can, sometimes even just offering food, different
So
support.
why were they established? Their purpose is directly for raising money? Is that what they do?
So their purpose is helping families in need because it was originally from that family who lost their daughter to cancer. So it's their way of trying to pour into different people and
wonderful.
make sure that they can get the life-saving surgery that they need.
So through them, you were able to raise $160,000. How
Yeah.
long did that take to raise the money?
Only 3 weeks.
3 weeks to raise that money.
3
That's
weeks.
fantastic. That is great. Okay, so you get the money and you let them know, okay, we've got the money. And then you said it was booked within 3 weeks?
Yep, within 3 weeks of us sending us the money. And 3 weeks, we had all the appointments and a date for the surgery.
Okay, so you're about to go to the US. You've been told all along here by your doctors that it's a 50-50 chance of survival. This is a very invasive surgery, so we don't want to do it. We want to give you pain meds. Now you've got an option for this surgery that's going to have a lot less incision, a lot less invasion, but it's still surgery.
Yeah.
And it's still a brain tumor. So what were you feeling when you were going into this?
So I definitely felt a little nervous, especially hearing the voices of my doctors who said that, like, you don't want surgery. Like, I was wondering if I was pushing too hard for this cure, and it was very nerve-wracking, but I felt a lot of peace about it because the surgeon had dealt with many cases like this and had very high successful rate, and his odds were like 0.5% fatality rate compared to the 50-50.
It's incredible. So was it successful?
It
Like,
was
no
absolutely
problem?
successful.
And you recovered in the US?
Yes, so I completely recovered. They got all the tumor out. They realized after they were like inside that the tumor was actually a lot worse than they thought.
Okay. Wow. Stay with this and we'll be right back with more. At the beginning of Kayleigh's journey, she was told surgery was not a viable option. Drugs could only help manage the pain, and basically the tumor was a ticking time bomb that could force her into emergency surgery if hydrocephalus set in. So don't leave town. Not exactly what a 20-year-old who had her whole life ahead of her wanted to hear. Surgery performed outside of Canada changed all that. Now, as we were talking about before the break, you're saying when they did operate and they did remove the tumor, they noticed something about the tumor. Tell me about that.
So they noticed, since it was so closely related to the brain matter, that the MRI itself couldn't actually see where it had been growing into the cerebellum.
Okay.
So it had a tail that was going in, which also explained why I was a bit nauseous quite frequently.
So the very thing that they said could happen was actually happening. And if you hadn't have had surgery, you would have had an emergency surgery happen eventually.
Right.
And possibly not too long ahead. You have no idea how fast it was growing.
Right.
It's
Because,
crazy.
yeah, they said it was nearly clogged when they had gone in. Like they were really happy that we went in and got it out.
Incredible.
They said better out than in. Really.
Absolutely. Wow, that's incredible. And so you recovered there and then you came back to Canada. Did you have any setbacks at any point?
So about 2 weeks after the surgery, I ended up getting chemical meningitis.
Which I've never heard of before, by the way. I've heard of bacterial and viral, but I've never heard of chemical. Now, why did you get chemical meningitis?
So because of the surgery using a metal plate where they cut into the skull,
Okay.
they put a metal plate there and my body was just having like a reaction to it. So it's another word for sterile meningitis.
Now, do you still have this plate?
Yes.
Okay, so your body has calmed down and accepted it now. But for that point, you had a reaction to it. So how did they deal with that?
So I went to the hospital. I got the slew of antibiotics, which was fun.
Oh.
But it was actually really funny because the neurosurgeon who did my case and kind of told me just to wait it out, wait for hydrocephalus to occur.
Yeah.
And that it's just chronic migraines. He was the one treating me.
Wow.
And he saw the successful surgery and that I was just bright and happy, even having meningitis. And all of his students were there like, wow, look at the incision. And
incredible. Talk about going full circle, right?
Yeah.
It must have been wonderful for him to see that though.
Mm-hmm.
So, so what is life like for you now?
So
Are you healthy? Is everything back to normal? Or?
So everything is fully back to normal. I had zero adverse reactions to the surgery that would be lifelong. So I'm fully healed, really. And
as you said, you're working on your BA right now, and
Yep.
you're working a job, and you're engaged. So
Yep.
it must seem almost like a bad dream that you went through.
It's really, yeah. The surgeon himself had said that after about 6 months, like you would be like, what surgery? Which was absolutely true. It was like it never happened besides the scar.
And the other, and when you think about that, your life could have been just on the couch, dealing with meds, being with these in chronic pain.
Mm-hmm.
That's like night and day.
Yeah, totally different quality of life.
So what do you feel needs to change in our healthcare system? In your case, from your experience, what do you think would help?
I think if doctors would believe you when you say that something's wrong with your body and actually take it seriously to the point where they aren't just saying, oh, you're just stressed, or oh, this tumor we found, it's not causing you problems. Like, let's see what else and try everything and then we'll deal with it. Because it wasn't until like 7 months or so
Yeah.
of just trying different pain meds, and like it had grown since they found it.
Now, 15 seconds, what did they do right?
They listened. It's free. I got all these tests, and eventually I did find the right treatment.
Thank you so much for joining today. When someone needs medical attention, I never want the first consideration to be, do you have health insurance? It truly is a gift to just walk into a hospital and receive care in our country. That being said, we cannot shy away from the cracks in our own system that we should address and see what can be done to improve. Hopefully, Kayleigh's journey back to health will encourage others to push harder for solutions. And if needed, organizations like the Sarah Tapley Foundation can make a positive difference for families facing a health crisis with a child. Thanks for joining us. See us next time.